Hello, everybody. I think we are live now. Thank you very much for coming to our first practical leadership webinar that is expected to happen periodically online. And my purpose is to share with all of you everything that might be useful in your work of engaging your team and getting better results as a leader or manager in your organization. So today, being the first webinar today, I would like to make a little bit of an introduction, and I have selected a subject that affects most of the managers and leaders in the sense that we don't know how to approach it in general. We think that it's not applicable to us, but definitely it is, and if we are not doing that properly, we will never achieve better results or very good results with our teams. So the topic today is about change and how you approach change, is which perspective you take on the change that you implement in your organization. We'll talk about the different ways of seeing change, and my objective is to make it really practical for you. I'm not an expert on change management. I'm not an expert on many different things, but my idea is to share with you my experience and what I have learned, what it worked for me, and hopefully out of all this time together, you will be able to take even one idea that you can implement, and that idea will build upon everything else, all the other ideas that you are implementing, and over time that will make you achieving better results with your team in your organization. So thank you very much for joining. I think we have a pretty interesting audience. Hello, Maria. Nice to meet you today. Hello, Joanna. Hello, Jonuts. Hello, Thomas. Nice to meet you again. So as I think we have already a good audience that we can start, and as people will come at the wrap up, we will be able to attend any other questions or comments that the rest of the team would like to make. My idea is to make these webinars as interactive as possible. So I would share some ideas. Some of them maybe you may not agree with them. Maybe you will be able to add something on top of what I said. That will be perfectly fine. And the idea is to learn together, to learn from each other, and to create that kind of basic understanding of what a manager or leader in an organization should do to keep getting better and better level of results. Well, very good. After having said that, let's start, and let's see if we can do that in let's say in around 30 minutes, and I will leave some time at the end for questions, answers, comments, whatever you would like to come up with. So let's start with today being the first one, I would like to share something about you. For those who don't know me, I have an engineering background. I have been working in multinational companies, automotive and electronic manufacturing, in different positions, from being a junior engineer working for IBM to becoming a plant manager for one automotive company. And that environment has been all the time around working together, leading teams, and achieving results as a team. So we are not talking about here individual expertise. We are talking about here how we can manage our teams and our relationships in the organization to provide the maximum value to our companies and to our customers. And today, after around 30 years working in multinational environment. Today I'm a leadership coach and a business consultant working with organizations and with individuals to make that improvement, make that change from whatever they are doing today to the level of results that they would like to achieve. So that's it. I don't talk anything else. I don't say anything else about myself. Let's go into the subject of today's webinar. So the subject is change. And my comment about change is that generally speaking, we are very bad at implementing change. Implementing change is something that we were not taught at schools, at universities. There was no specific training on how best change can be implemented to achieve the maximum results. So we go into in our environment, in our workplace, and we face that we need to change something, and we are not ready. We are not ready, but not only us, you may recognize yourself, but in general, managers and leaders are not ready to implement change, and we are not doing that very effectively. And I will tell you a couple of stories to back this up. So when we think about change, being a manager or leader in our organization, many times we think about change as something for the big leaders, big global leaders, companies, CEOs, senior leaders in our organization. They are the ones leading change. So we think of these well-known CEOs who are on the media every other day talking about how change will happen in everything: technology, global warming, labor relationships, everything. So there is a change all the time. And when we think about creating change, we tend to think about, okay, we are not so important to drive change. All this topic is very important to our senior leaders and global leaders. These are the ones who should know how to implement change. But the reality is that in everything we do, the only permanent thing is change. As Heraclitus said in the 5th century before Christ, right? Everything we do involves change. Even if we work alone, even if we are isolated, we have to face the change of ourselves, of our body. Everything is changing. So we cannot avoid talking about change and how we manage this change. But if on top of that, we are in charge of a team, we are in an environment where our people is changing, our environmental conditions are changing, our customers are changing, the technology is changing, and we are there trying to get the maximum results, the maximum level of results for our organization, then is when we start thinking change is affecting me, even though I don't want to think about that, but change is affecting me. Even though I don't like change, I need to handle it. So which are some facts about change that will help us to set the context. Some of this you already know, but let me go through some facts that are the result of some studies and research. 60 to 70% of the change in organizations fail. And this is matching what I said before. We are not ready. Leaders in the organizations are not ready for change. So this is the result. We don't know how to implement change. We try to do that. We do our best. 60, 70% of the change initiatives in organizations fail. 75% of the companies expect that in the next 3 years, the change initiatives are going to increase. So we cannot be blind on the topic of change. We are going to constantly and increasingly face the need to handle change and handle it in the best way possible to achieve the best level of results that we can. Engaged employees increase change implementation success rate by 30%. So organizations with employees with a lower level of engagement, they tend to fail more on the implementation of change that in companies where employees are more engaged. Top-down change initiatives are less successful, and they rate around 34%, than what is called open source initiatives. Open source is anybody in the organization can propose and lead different type of change in the organization. So when change is coming top-down from our management, senior leaders, the owners of the company, the change implementation rates are lower than when this change is coming from the employees, and the employees are the ones who are promoting or initiating and implementing that change. And finally, the last data that I have here is that the success increased by 12% if the change is implemented by employees. So if there is a change in the organization and we allow our employees to take ownership and responsibility in implementing those change initiatives, the success rate increased by 12%. So out of all these things, how do you think usually change is approached in organizations? Based on your experience, you can look at the organizations you know because you are working there, organizations you worked in the past, something you have read. How do you think usually change is approached when some organizations want to implement some change initiative? Usually the change is top-down. We have seen our senior leaders coming to the rest of the organization saying, because that reason, we need to do this to be more successful, to survive in the industry, whatever it is. But the change is provided top-down by somebody to us, and we just need to execute. This is how usually, in most of the cases, change is managed. The change is presented to the team as some kind of collection of facts or business case. So somebody is trying to communicate that change to the organization. That communication is done based on facts or business case, showing that if we do this, we are going to achieve that outcome, that level of result. And everything is kind of a pre-prepared information where everything is rational and factual. This is what we have, this is what we need to have, and this is what we are going to do. Everything factual and very rational. There are predefined deadlines and actions. So when somebody implements, usually in this top-down, they come to us saying, we need to implement this change and this needs to happen this year because that reason and the actions to be taken. So we are limited by somebody else's decision. In very rare situations, we as managers and leaders are involved in these top-down changes that are coming to us. And obviously, this is translated into only one-way communication. Somebody decides what needs to be implemented, which change has to happen. That change is communicated to the organization, and there are very limited, we have very limited chances or leverage to come up to whoever took that decision and to try to change something. Everything comes to us as a fact. It's a one-way communication. There is no feedback that can change that situation. So this is how usually change is approached. And this is how usually, or this is the reason, or the root cause why 60 to 70% of change in the organization fail. So something is wrong in this process. Something needs to happen if we want to increase the chances of success for any change initiative that we do or we take in our organization. So how do you approach change in your environment? We said before that change is everything, that the only stable, permanent thing is change. So change is not something that belongs to the great leaders in our organization. Change is something that all of us are handling and need to handle the best way we can every single day. So how do you approach change in your area? Which type of change you work in every area? Which type of change you are involved in everyday situation? For sure, you are not involved in changing the company culture. You are not involved in changing the global policies to improve the labor conditions in one country. This is above your scope of work, but in your area of responsibility, you are responsible for some specific activity in your company. And in that specific activity, in that specific area of responsibility, there is change every single day. So which type of changes are you approaching every day? First, which type of changes? And change is everything. Remember that change can be changing the date you have a conference call with your customers. This is a change. Or changing the layout where the employees sit at the office. This is a change. Or changing how you present something to the senior management every week. Changing the format of the data that you send to a customer. These are changes that might seem insignificant compared to these big global leaders' activities, but are important for your area of activity. So it depends how you approach those individual changes that you will have more, better or worse results. You will have more success in what you do with your team, or you will have less. And it would depend on how you approach those specific changes. And then we will see how this can approach in a moment. So I would like you from now on until the end of the conversation to think about you. Forget about change as a global area that is outside your responsibility to something that is in your responsibility, under your responsibility, and it affects your work every day. So there are basically two ways to approach change when we have to implement some change. One is the what I call the technical focus. And the technical focus can be related to what we said before about this top-down and presentation and business case type of communication. So you have seen when leaders come to the organization and they say, we need to implement this, and they have a presentation of, I don't know, probably 30 slides, 40 slides, explaining in detail the current condition, the future condition, the specific actions, dependencies, the benefits that we will get on the change. So everything is related to the rational part of the change and the technical part of the change. Everything is related to numbers. In most of the cases is money impact for the organization and is the future results for the organization. And everything it looks like is affecting only the organization and indirectly affect us because we are part of the organization, but we as individuals, we are not the subject of that change. So this is what I call by technical focus. Every very technical communication and structure on what do we need to do to implement a change. The other focus is to focus on people. Why do I distinguish these two? Because at the end, the success or lack of success of any change initiative depends on people. And people are usually the ones who are going to either freely and smoothly and willingly implement the change, or who are going to resist in different levels of resistance, sometimes very fierce resistance, sometimes very subtle resistance. But usually, if we see that some change is not happening, usually it's because people resist to that change. And that resistance has not been addressed initially when we have communicated the change. I will give you an example. I have been working with one customer that they wanted to implement a big change in the organization. So they hired one very brilliant manager, director in that area. And for the last 2 years, that director has been trying to implement a change that, if you look at this technical focus communication, is very clear, rational, evident, is a no-brainer. That change needs to be implemented. It's so clear and logical that this company needs that change implemented. But that person forgot totally, completely about the human side. So during 2 years, a big part of the organization has been resisting to that change. And that individual has been fighting for 2 years against everybody to implement that brilliant project that would bring a lot of benefits for the company. But he totally ignored the impact that that change created on the population of the employees. Some people feared that they were going to lose their job. Some people feared that they were going to lose their status. Some people feared that they were going to lose their significance or their importance in the company. For some people, it was not clear what would happen with them. And all that type of uncertainties and insecurities, the first thing that they do in us is resistance, because we fear about what will happen to us. So we immediately, our subconscious mind resists to that. And the curious thing here in this specific example that I was telling you is that none of these people who were resisting said that publicly. Everybody was aligned. Everybody was aligned with the change. The thing is that nobody was doing his best. And when they could, they were not moving even a finger to move in the direction of that change. So finally, that brilliant manager left the organization because he was unable to drive a very important and theoretically needed and successful change in the organization. He just missed the people focus. So there are these two areas, we can relate them. The technical focus is addressed to the rational part. So the rational part is everything is numbers, strategies, logical thinking, business case, a specific level of results. When we talk about people, we talk about the emotional part, and this is much more powerful. The logical part can say, this is brilliant idea. The emotional part will stop any action in this direction if the people are not counted and are not on board to that specific change. So, looking at the facts that we talked before, and in these facts are hiding that level of success. This all what we are talking now are being hidden by all these facts. So, what is, after everything that we said now, what is that one specific thing that you are going to do differently starting today to implement those change initiatives in your area of responsibility? I don't know which is your area of responsibility. I don't know which are the projects or the need for change that you have, but for sure you are involved in some level of change. I would like you to think about what have you been doing up to now? What do you think need to be done in some specific area, and identify one thing that you are going to do differently. You are going to do differently based on what we said here. The rational part of the change, the emotional part, and how to combine both to get the people on your side more than resisting. Because whatever we do as managers or leaders are either increasing the energy of our employees, increasing the enthusiasm, increasing the engagement, increasing the commitment, or are decreasing the commitment, enthusiasm, and levels of energy. Even if we are not careful about what we do, we can do things, we can say things, we can take actions, but if we are not careful about if our actions, our words, our change proposals or initiatives are going to increase or decrease the energy of our employees, we may find that something that is a very brilliant idea, we will have very poor level of results. And if we consistently don't look at how our actions and our words in our communications affect the energy level of our employees, we will find eventually that we are unable to achieve any good level of results. And then it will come the frustration that as a leader or manager, we cannot achieve better level of results. And everything comes from our own actions. We don't need to look at anywhere else, right? The environment can be what it is, we cannot change. Our customers can be what they are, we cannot change. Our management, it is what it is, we cannot change. But we can change the way we approach ourselves with our teams. Are we increasing the energy of our teams, or are we decreasing the energy of our teams? And that makes a whole difference. That will make your results will be like night and day. So after having this, I would like to tell you a story. Before Q&A, I would like to tell you a story that it came to me when I finished my university, and it's a story that made me think differently. I have technical background, engineering background, and as most of the people with technical background, we like to focus on facts, numbers, formulas, strategies. This is what we have been taught in school, in the university, and this is what we are doing at the workplace. We are here to solve problems. So at the end of my university, before I left the university, we attended some seminars where senior, old, retired senior engineers came kind of to give several speeches to the young young engineers that were just finishing that year and were moving into the marketplace. We were starting working that at the end of that year. And there was one thing that I remember. Probably I don't remember many things from those seminars, but there is one thing that I remember very well. And the thing is, that person said, you are here 5 or 6 years studying everything that is technical. So you study from mathematics, physics, chemistry, industrial design, electronics, nuclear power, everything related to technical stuff that engineers learn. And that person said, and when you will move into the labor market, you will think that your biggest problems are going to be related to machines, equipment, technical stuff, technical problems. So everybody agreed. And he said, you are very wrong. The best or the worst, the biggest of your problems will be related to people, will not be related to anything, any technical stuff, will be related to people. So at that time, we were kind of looking at each other, and we didn't agree. After 6 years studying all this technical stuff, and somebody's telling us that this technical stuff will not be a problem, the problem will be people, we didn't believe him. So it took me not too long to realize that this was the reality. The biggest problems that you are going to face in the organization is related to people. And you as a manager or leader, you are the one who will have to deal with these problems in the best way that you can. So you can pull the people together or you can pull the people apart. This will depend on you. And here, at the beginning of the 20th century, Napoleon Hill, the author of the famous Think and Grow Rich, he said, friction in machinery costs money to our industry, but nothing is more costly than friction in human relationships. So change is part of friction in those human relationships. If the change is not, addressed properly, you are going to create friction. You are going to create resistance. You are going to demotivate people. You are going to create internal fights, and this is totally against the direction that you want to take with your team. That is to achieve the best level of results that you can. So hopefully this has changed a little bit the way you think. I would have liked if you got only at least one idea to your view on how to, first, what is change in your environment, and then how you can approach change to make the most out of it. If you just took one idea, I would be really happy. So now I would like to move to our Q&A. Here I have in the chat, please feel free to write some questions, and then we can go over that. Okay, yes, Maria is asking how we can engage people, because we have said, this is a very good question, thank you very much, Maria. We have said that engaged people contribute to a higher level of success in change management. So how I can engage people in my environment. So employee engagement is a big subject, right? So I don't know, we have time here to review it in detail, but the engaging of people is related to understanding and providing to them what they really need. Usually when we work with people, we just demand from them. We hire somebody in our department, we need these people to do this for the company. We need to complete that job. We need to have that training. We need to have that results. We need to have that discipline. we are demanding from our employees. Of course, we have to demand them because that's why the organization needs our employees to perform and to do things for the organization. But we cannot forget about what they want. And to have them engaged, we have to try to align what they expect from the organization, what they want, and what the organization expects from them. And there is a conversation, manager and employee, only listening to them and trying to do your best, what it's in your hands. Sometimes what the employee wants will not be in your hands, but just listening to them, showing your concern, showing your interest and your curiosity about what they want, and try to offer yourself to help them to achieve what they want, that will create totally the energy of your employees and for sure the results that they will achieve with you. Very good question, Maria. Thank you very much. More questions. Joan is asking how much time we should dedicate to change activities in our environment. Well, it depends how much, it depends on the environment, right? Usually what I have seen happening is that change is all over the place, right? So if we don't, if we look around, we see opportunities to change, to improve things, personally and professionally. The opportunities are there. And if we look with curiosity and with intention, we will find those opportunities. What is happening in most of the cases is that we know that we need to change. We know that this needs to be done, but we are afraid to face that change. We are afraid to start that initiative of changing something because we are not sure how to do it, because we are not sure that we'll get the proper level of support. We are not sure about how our team will react. So it's many times, in most of the cases, it's more comfortable to just pull ourselves back, just wait and see, and be very careful which changes or which initiatives we support to move forward. So I would say that if you really want to make change, and this is what the big leaders make, they make the picture of the future, and the picture of the future involves a lot of change, and they support that change. You can play that role of painting the picture of the future for your employees and supporting them to start taking actions in that direction. That means implementing change activities. Or you can, if you are afraid, you may pull back and be more mindful in engaging in those activities. So it will depend on you. If my understanding or my way of thinking is that we can make as much change as possible because change is needed, and change opportunities for change are all over the place. So it's up to us to decide which ones we need to do at each point in time. Thank you, Joan, for your question. Any more questions? No, there is no more questions. Okay, I think we are more or less on time. This webinar is being recorded, so I will post the recording so you can review that if or you can share with your team if you think they will be interested. If you want to contact me, these are my contact details, and I would look forward to seeing you in this environment in the next webinar that you will see announced in your LinkedIn account. Thank you very much again for listening. It's been a pleasure. Talk to you next time.